Good morning. In our last lesson, we talked about how to factor GCFs out of terms, which is reviewed up here. However, we're going to build on that and use that to factor a polynomial by grouping. So there's some processes here that you need to follow. You use factor by grouping when there's 4 terms. What you're going to do is make 2 groups. You're going to factor each group separately, and then what's left in the parentheses should be the same, and if it's not, you made a mistake or it's not factorable, and then you're going to finish factoring. Okay, so let's look at this. It does say always check for GCF first because sometimes that makes your numbers quite a bit smaller, but there's no GCF in this first one. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make 2 groups. I'm going to make a purple group, and I am going to make a red group. Okay, notice I included that sign there. Now be careful with this because it doesn't mean we're multiplying these 2 together. Technically there's a plus sign in between those 2. But I'm going to look at the purple group first. Okay, there is nothing that goes into 4 and 7. The only thing I can divide them both by is 1. So I can write that down, that's fine. But they do have ends in common. So think back to the last lesson. If they both have ends, I'm going to look at the smallest exponent of those ends. So I have n to the 3rd and n squared. So let's take out an n squared, since 2 is smaller. So 4 divided by 1 is 4. If I have 3 n's and I take 2 out, I have 1 left. And then 7 divided by 1 is 7. I had 2 n's and I took 2 out, so I don't have any n's left. Okay, so same thing as the last lesson. The only difference is we're going to have to do this twice because there's 2 groups. The next one, notice they're both negative, so I'm going to use a minus sign there. And I can divide 12 and 21 by 3, but they don't both have n's, so I can't bring an n out because this 21 doesn't have an n with it. So be careful because I'm actually dividing by negative 3. Negative 12 divided by negative 3 gives me a positive 4, and then we still have that n there. And negative 21 divided by negative 3 is a positive 7, and then again we didn't have any n's. There's one more step to do once you get here, and this is where you can kind of check yourself. If these 2 groups don't match, you made a mistake somewhere or it's not factorable. Okay, so go back and check your work, and then if you can't find any mistakes, it might not be factorable. Notice that they match. So what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to factor those out and then take the parts that I'm left with and put them in another group. So I have 1 n squared or n squared minus 3 in my other group. This is your factored form. The groups can be switched, n squared minus 3 times 4n plus 7. This is the same as the top one, okay, or one or the other. And then to check it, we can multiply it all out. Okay, let's do it again. I'm going to make my first group blue this time, and I'm going to make my second group green. So in my blue group, I can divide 8 and 56 both by 8. They also both have v's, and my smallest exponent is 2. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. I'm not going to write it there. And if I have 3 v's and I take 2 out, I have 1 v left. Negative 56 divided by 8 is negative 7. I have 2 v's and I took 2 out, so I don't have any v's left. This next part is where I see a lot of mistakes. Notice I cannot, because this is really a 1v, I cannot divide anything out except a 1. Students tend to forget to put that 1 there, which will mess up their final answer. Okay, so I can't change that or factor anything, so I'm just going to stick a 1 in front there. Now, we can compare. Notice I have v minus 7 in both of those terms. So I can pull this out front with a v minus 7, and then I'm left with 8v squared plus 1 in my second group. Again, you can switch the order. That does not change your answer as long as your groups don't change at all. So I still have to have 8v squared plus 1 in one group and v minus 7 in the other group. Let's look at the next one. Again, check for GCFs first. Okay, check GCFs first. There aren't any. So I'm going to make a red group and I'm going to make a purple group. Okay, 14 and 21 are both divisible by 7. And then we have x squared there. They both have x's. 2 is the smallest exponent. So 14 divided by 7 is 2. Had 3 x's, took 2 out. So I have 1 left. And then negative 21 divided by 7 is negative 3. I had 2 x's. I took 2 out. I don't have any left. For the second group, I can divide both of those terms by 3, but they don't have x's in common, so I have no x's there. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. I should say negative 9. And notice our groups match. Okay, so I'm going to pull that out front. And we're good. Remember, the orders are reversible, so that's okay. And then the last one I'm going to do is number 4, and then I'm going to have you try a couple on your own. Okay, remember there's technically a plus sign in there. Notice when there's a minus sign, I make sure I include it, but when there's a plus sign, I don't worry about it. So pay attention to your signs. Okay, for the blue group, I can divide 10 and 5 by 5. They also have n squared in common. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. I have 3 n's and I took 2 out, so I have 1 left. Negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1, and I took both n's out. Be careful with your signs in this next one because that's where people make common mistakes. I cannot divide anything into 2 and 1 except 1, but I am going to make it a negative 1 because of that negative in front of my 2. So negative 2 divided by negative 1 gives me a positive 2, and positive 1 divided by negative 1 is a negative 1. Notice your groups match. If you hadn't put a negative there, they wouldn't have, so you would have needed to check your work. You're going to pull that 2n minus 1 out front. Whoops, sorry, that's minus. And then you have 5n squared minus 1 in your second group. Go ahead and hit pause now. Try those next two, and when you are ready, hit play to check your answers. Okay, and here are your final answers for those last two. Remember, you can switch the order, so you could put the m minus 1 group first, and then the 4m squared plus 3 second. So go ahead and check those answers. And if you have any questions, let us know. If not, go ahead and do the practice problems in your packet, and then get ready to move along. And if you have questions on the practice, again, do not hesitate to reach out to us. Have a great day.